Hey, this is Scott L. Miller. Today on Sam IT, I'm going to talk about why your MSP, or you as an MSP, should not be using VPNs. Now, in my last video, we talked about VPNs and why they could be dangerous because they extend the LAN. They have all this cruft of LAN-based security and extending it to unknown endpoints and all kinds of things. Unfortunately, because of the way that outside consultants often need to work in IT, it's common, and because many MSPs are old, they come from an era where VPNs were still the thing, it's common to use VPNs to make that happen. VPNs are incredibly handy for MSPs because they take the MSP worker or their machine and put it directly onto the network of the customer, but the machine is local to the MSP wherever they are. So it's an incredibly useful technology, and because they're IT workers, VPNs make more sense than they do for non-IT workers. Non-IT workers, we can pretty easily define everything they're going to do on their network, and it's always done at scale. Even if you only have 10 workers, chances are if you have a major application for your business, all 10 users or nearly will use it. Whereas your IT department, often everything they do is a one-off, and it's often easiest to simply connect them to the network and give them the wide range of tools that they could get by being as part of the network to do what they need to do. This sounds great, and in many ways it is, but it's very important to step back and realize that there are major implications to this. The first is that it is incredibly cumbersome. VPNs are not things you want to leave on all of the time. You want to turn them on and off as needed because they do a lot of exposure onto the network. They just open up the network to other things. So that means that it can be very slow for workers to work through them unless they leave them open all the time, which is bad. Now, if you have an outside staff who's working on your network full time and doing nothing else, okay, there's exceptions as always, right? Almost nothing is cut and dry, and certainly not using a VPN is not some universal best practice. It's just something you need to be aware of and think about appropriately. The bigger thing is that the majority of MSPs, basically to be an MSP, you have to work with multiple clients. If you don't, you probably have an architectural problem somewhere with your business, or you just haven't gotten those clients yet. Given that, it means that the VPNs need to connect from one business to another. You hope that they're not connected to multiple businesses at the same time, and very few MSPs would do that. That's beyond reckless. So as long as you have a good relationship with your MSP, you can pretty much assume they're not pulling that stunt on you, because that would connect one company to another company through a tunnel. That's really reckless. If you're basing your security on access to your LAN being your security barrier, and your MSP is randomly talking to 10 different companies at the same time, all with open tunnels connected to the same machine, completely exposing all of those companies to each other, that's ridiculous. But most MSPs would never do that. But be aware, that is the kind of thing that a lot of MSPs have done in the past, and it's pretty well known why that's a big no-no. But even if you're not doing that, even if your MSP is simply moving a connection from one client to another over time, they may be connected to one client for 2 hours in the morning and another for 2 hours in the afternoon, there's still a certain amount of exposure, because if something were to happen, such as that machine that the MSP is using connects to first one and then the other, it may become infected from the first one and then turn around and infect the other later. It is not as dangerous as if the two are connected at the same time in real time, but it's still rather similar. And we'll go back to 1980s abstinence training. We would like to remind you that when you sleep with someone, it's not just them that you're sleeping with, it's everyone that they've slept with, and all the people that those people have slept with, and all the people that those people have slept with. And that's how VPNs act in your business. When someone connects to you through a VPN, you're not just connected and exposed to the malware that they would get normally, you're exposed to everyone that they've been exposed to and that those people have been exposed to. So an MSP generally is the one, or sometimes some service providers, which is why you never let a service provider do this, act as a exposure point where they may come into exposure with dozens or hundreds of separate companies over the course of a day or two, become exposed to all of them, and then expose all of them to each other. Now, that being said, of course, there are ways to completely or almost completely mitigate these risks and do it reasonably. Ways to do that include using technologies like VDI or a whole bunch of VMs and using them exclusively for a single client. You may have a desktop or a laptop and have 20 clients that you work on regularly that you wish you had a VM to be able to work with simply because you need to be able to get work done efficiently. Having 20 different VMs on your laptop and just firing up the ones that you're working on at the time might work just fine. It's a lot more headache for the MSP. It slows things down for the clients, but it does protect them and give them a one-to-one VPN situation. So it is plausible to use VPNs in a good, healthy way for customers. So don't be alarmed just because your MSP uses a VPN, but you might want to have a conversation about them with how they handle the exposure that it creates and why they feel VPN is the right tool for accessing your business. It may be. I don't want to tell you that it's the wrong tool, but I want you to be aware that the chances are it's the wrong tool, and you may want to rethink how you're allowing people into your network. And if you're an MSP, you may want to rethink why you're using VPNs and if they're really necessary. Often there's an alternative that will work as well, and often better, because of the long time it takes to set up a VPN, because you need to manually tear it down when you're done, because it's invisible and it takes a bit of effort to maintain, because you need to isolate the machines that talk over VPNs, either through something like steady state or deep freeze or VMs or VDI or whatever. You need to come up with a way to isolate those things to keep your clients secure and to keep yourself secure. You certainly don't want all of your clients exposing to you either, right? As the MSP, you also want to protect your business, so you don't want the most dangerous people are your clients. They're the ones most likely to have malware, not you. You're most likely to get it from them. So there's a really strong drive for you to not want to be exposed to your clients rather than exposing your clients. So rethinking whether VPNs work for you or not. Are they really necessary? Is it something you can work around? And if we spend some time, generally, we can come up with ways, whether they're tools like Screen Connect and TeamViewer, or tools like SSH proxies and jump boxes, in which we can access customer systems and maintain them while maintaining careful gaps so that malware and ransomware and hacking attempts cannot simply traverse back through our networks to attack us from our clients or our clients from us, and even more importantly, one client to another. Thanks for joining me. Remember to like and subscribe. If you're an MSP, you have questions, you want to know how your MSP might need to work, how you want to connect to your clients, put them in the comments below. Let's talk about this. What tools are you using? Ask me what tools I'm using. I do this all the time. And if you want to sponsor us, you can do so on Patreon.